Olly, Makir and Hugo are 3 UK-based seminarians. They were given the opportunity from their diocese to travel overseas and experience the missionary church in Kenya through Missio and Mill Hill missionary projects. In this new video series, they shared with us the many signs of hope they experienced on their journey.
So right next to our parish, there was a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center. We could see, the effect that it was having in the community and how drugs and alcohol was a problem. So they'd all sort of flock there. So you see them giving out supplies and stuff. Just so many times people would turn up to the parish door and they wouldn't even really ask, but then just the priest would go out and give them what they needed. Sometimes we would travel out to a satellite parish and then, give grain or seeds, whatever it might be needed for the people there.
Also in the parish, there was a rehabilitation centre for street kids. There was some Mill Hill sisters in the parish who I think were in charge of that. In fact, those sisters were very active because they also ran a deaf school. So the parish had a lot of facilities in the service of the community there, as well as basketball court. We were in the school holidays when we were there, so most days you go out and you'd see local kids making use of the sports facilities there, which are just sort of open to them, no extra charge.
Yeah, and also in Kisumu, they had something called the Urban Apostolate, Mill Hill Urban Apostolate. So a wonderful facility. There was also a temporary shelter for street kids. So twice a week, I think during the day and once during the night, every week they'd go out looking for kids on the streets. The idea is that they'll stay with them for 90 days, give them basic education, feed them, and then try to reintegrate them into their communities after that, or if not, find other families. On top of that, they had a medical facility, essentially like a hospital, a HIV clinic at the Urban Apostolate. And I remember the first day being there, I was speaking to one of the sister who was there, Sister Bernadette from Ireland, and she was saying that when she had first started there, a 10-year-old child turned up with a baby in one hand and a toddler at her side, and the parents had passed away, and she was one of the people who was using the facility. Another thing that they had there is they also had a support group, like a youth group, for basically teenagers with HIV. The church there was meeting their most basic needs there, and that was hugely inspirational to see. They were also offered counselling as well. They had a professional counsellor there, and again, that was all just knowing that was paid out of the the red boxes that we see in church, or we see on the mantelpiece. Really, it really hit home. It really hit home. It's a difficult thing to think about, actually, when you consider the needs that they do meet. The fact that, as I said, 2,000 people relying on the Urban Apostolate for HIV medication. Another example: primary schools. They're free, but they're not really free. They also have a small fee to kind of incentivize the teacher, which will only be something like 300 shillings. But it's still something that needs to be paid, and that's one thing that the Urban Apostolate would do. So there'd be a lot of kids who essentially wouldn't be going to school, wouldn't be educated, and I think it's not something I'd like to think about, if I'm honest. If the facilities would suddenly disappear.
Presumably, those parishes that the missionaries are running would have to be subsumed into the the falls of diocesan structure. Obviously, they do exist within the diocese, but they would have to be given entirely into the management of the diocesan clergy. But whether they would really have the capacity or the wherewithal to keep up those facilities. The sisters there are running the rehabilitation centres in Luanda, the deaf school. I don't know. It's not what they're set up for. Diocesan clergy have a sort of particular set of priorities, that they're trained for particular things, whereas the missionary priests have been formed with a sort of a wider a wider mindset of what they're supposed to be doing in their the places they serve. So I think they do bring something really distinct to those parishes. The Mill Hill priests were active in primary evangelization in other areas. For example, the deacon who was in the parish where we were was shortly being posted off to a parish in Uganda, and that was primary evangelization work. He was very excited.
Yeah.
So that pure sort of missionary work, that I suppose is maybe what we first think of when we think of missionaries, that's still alive and active.
Yeah.
What came across me really was the closeness of the pastors and the church, within the community, and how involved they are. I think for me, the mere fact that the churches are within the actual slums themselves, where the people are, for me, that was mission in action.
Mm-hmm. The parish where we were in Luanda had originally been founded by the Mill Hill missionaries because, and in that particular area, the Catholics were really isolated, and although it's a well-established parish now, there were very busy, active priests that we were living with, the Mill Hill priests, and they really took it seriously, the need to get out and reach the most inaccessible people within the parish. The whole of the parish priest's sort of time outside of saying mass was just getting out to the sort of remote parts of his enormous parish, and visiting people in their homes and taking communion to the sick. So I think he was really sort of living that get out to the margins sort of mindset that Pope Francis is encouraging us always to have.